Pyoge Nyentin Sangularim Sigayola Tamdi Shukutan, Tarin Pyogalu Nidon Gata Shushaji, Sakadawe Tebadunta, Shilu Nidon Jushilu, Dautubet Senga, Sapubu, Shirushutrubet Sangularim, Dinzichimik Nidushui. Pemitik Zune, Sugar Daram Salar, Geji to UMAYLAM Godo Legui, Gage Dontabki, Lishi Unje da De, Yijakaji dan, Taga, Nintinche, Dembena Yabare, Shiptasham Silana. Pemitik Zune, Tarin Sugar Daram Salar, Geji to UMAYLAM Godo Legui, Gage Dongu, Lishi Unjena Yabare. Puri Yon La Mingdun Sumbe Ransi Rangon Tobigu, Shize Rawan Kerso Yon Tabsu Migde, Konsagam Gunchimbuchogi Tukje Ho, Pumi Utitsu, Geji Deng, UMAYLAM Godo Legui, Gage Dontabgi, Lishi Di Yikjaka, Tarin Konsagam Gunchimbuchola Jenda Shubadata, Legui Unjegi Seta Nayabre. Konsachogi Sugar Dadeng Pukin to Shungi to the Nanchung or Station Badadun, Pimitik Zugi Sigon Show the Chidi Galun Show Namniki, Konsachola Yichete that Jenda Shubatan, Gabder Konsachoki, Kanyine, Debe Long Tujuring, Lungi Tunge Shene, Shilunidon Chukjilo, Jayepep the Chepsigi, Tuge Chazan, Manzogi, Yodem Chebe, Goti La Zidu Chekichunwa, Tugon to be a Bekor Galuptida Pepto.
the Shenseri. Konsang apa cembukam ne sungde, ene kada parang punya ne, kada yang pun rimjungi, ta lungi tungge saya jadi tu somre. Ta ne, hasil locuru ne, ene kada parang kita gengki je, ta lo, kerja jujur. Tunjuk, bodoh lo cuci ni ya, ada gengki je. Jadi yang nangsi ki, ni do cikne, ini, udu lamne, kalau coba, yang bukan ni, dene ngene tadi, cik gengki je. Tadi ni do cuci ni, tak gengki cakap je. Jadi ada ni. Mangsoga ada vendim sheni ya tenshewe bosa sengla didi ada tamen manzo ada zeu tsube kudu de yuchong nga lo chuju ya sigyong dagtar mi kunyu ne so chepsi gyawan de shibri ada lo chuju shibe jela da chepsi gyawan de mangzo lamne da yuzu sheni ya tenshewe chepsi kuchi and memang wende utone ya chung sigyong ya ado so zipya chongade mane chigda jimne ningdon na tebe ten jikcha de da de ruche shiu yang chung shen do so lu chungla wada do so le da terde ana da ma zo da chepsi na da mo le ya and da sigyong to na ma che ya da dia de yiji da cha zo tikche sto and the chance session and George Yone da George the Carrione da the Chelsea Wuchia conditioner and should ever be dissorted to see that and to see dying rest of
Zerimdeda Drubejesu Sargwesera Gonzogi Sigyonchone, Lishi Unjenande, Dini Tabar Pumirila, Shize Rawan, Kerso Yontabla Migbe, Pumitikzugi Bezun Chirishi Inche Sungshin, Geji Jizona, UMAYLAM Siju, Konor Meba Kasi Shedo Yonche, Legudi Bewashi Inche Sungyabre.
Samal Dishley Shui, Terinde Pumitikzu Tone, UMAYLAM Kodo Beag Lingu Beag Unje. Kansana Bebechizo Nane Mixe Chige Kalu Mamuchi le Chave Kabla Name Mamuchi de Jeve Kabsuta Franso Mabuchi ki UMAYLAM Koni Kingdu Inea Mabuchi ki Makembe to Danashi Konutebe Didije Mamudu This songs are Manzu Tone, UMAYLAM, the Kandiji me, Geji Dingja Tone, Kang Sesechi, Shutu Imena, Gezen Chimbushita Tonsu, Mixigi, Yana Shun, kuzabri 다나시 코란수 슝습 규제 치기에 칼 내유 미나다 미망나 우멜람권에 대시 로고 잡체 코네테샤와 멍시다 유도 디송자 드링 링귀디 규제 타게레 년제레 아니 익도네 먼저 우멜람권에 강세세 거부디 게지 등제대 다나시 페베능구레 페난레 자나나라 임베이네야 켄도 중고 임베이나 아니 드그스키 게젠 쳔보 요베토네 아니 랭귀지 페샤브레
칠루니도 주네송 벽에 점을 참체대 답을 로시링 벽에 점을라 야르게 강야 마치네 데몰리부터 변난도 칠루니도 굴로네송 답을 베미게다 숨주의 란류메세다메 네다디오 게지지존에 벽된 겹겨 톱답 수미데 우멜람기 고도 리귀디 베오시 임브레 리시디다제 우멜람기 타게다 닌팅 통동시 소준 여부테 운제야 나오마세 시조 탈람규네 지라 리귀 사바카지다 뷰미 탑주기 규림트 계지 뒤직하다 우멜람기 리시다제베 티버틸레 용다 카지제 초지슈베 코네 익자카지 개게 대외 기 뒤나 법규슈베제 운제나여브레
I request Dr. Lawson Singhi or Sejong to officially launch this website. Now it's officially launched. Some applause.
Shamla Tharing Unje Nawe Kama Dun Chebe Umelam Gi Nyenting Disiruna.
The middle way approach, UMAYLAM as we call it in Tibetan, is a peaceful means of conflict resolution. It's based on principles that we can all relate to: nonviolence, dialogue, interdependence. And in any situation of conflict, it seeks to find a resolution that is mutually beneficial and addresses the interest of all the key parties involved in the conflict.
In Tibet today, the reality is there is political repression, social discrimination, economic marginalization, environmental destruction, cultural assimilation. On a daily basis, we hear painful stories coming from inside Tibet. And it concerns every Tibetan and also raises the question, how can we alleviate the sufferings of Tibetans as soon as possible? How to replace political repression with basic freedom, economic marginalization with economic opportunities, environmental destruction with environmentally sustainable policies, social discrimination with social equality, cultural assimilation with cultural preservation. We have to solve the issue of Tibet through dialogue.
The middle way approach was conceived by His Holiness the Dalai Lama following the People's Republic of China's occupation of Tibet in 1959. His Holiness was forced to flee to India, and 80,000 Tibetans followed him across the Himalayas. In the early years of exile, the Tibetan leadership sought to restore Tibet's independence. However, the international context of the time and the deteriorating situation inside Tibet called for a more pragmatic and realistic solution, the middle way approach. In 1997, through a resolution in the Tibetan Parliament in exile, the middle way approach was unanimously adopted as the official position of the Central Tibetan Administration based in India, which is the democratically elected representative body of the Tibetan people.
At that time, Deng Xiaoping stated the question of independence we cannot discuss, we cannot negotiate on that point. Beside that, everything open, we can discuss.
The middle way approach has enabled us to establish direct contact between the Tibetan leadership and the Chinese government. Since 1979, because of our adopting the middle way approach, we've been able to send several delegations to Tibet.
Since then, several rounds of Sino-Tibetan talks have been held, culminating in 2008 with the presentation of the Memorandum on Genuine Autonomy for the Tibetan people to the Chinese leadership. This was followed in 2010 by the presentation of a note on the memorandum. The memorandum details the Tibetan people's vision of autonomy and self-governance. It defines the basic needs to be addressed to enable the preservation of key aspects of Tibetan identity, such as language, culture, religion, education, and environmental protection, to name a few.
It is entirely based on the provisions of the Constitution of People's Republic of China and also the autonomy law. We have not asking anything which is out of the provision of the Constitution and the law. Middle way approach is applicable to any conflict in the world, right from the conflict within the family or within the community or within the nations. It is not seeking one side winner or the other side loser, so that both sides can be satisfied when the solution is found.
Different countries around the world have demonstrated that the autonomy sought by Tibetans is possible. For example, Nunavut in Canada, Greenland and the Faroe Islands in Denmark, South Tyrol, Trentino in Italy, and Aceh in Indonesia. It has also enabled us to maintain a Tibetan presence in several countries, and key amongst these countries is India, where we find the largest number of Tibetans in exile and also where the Central Tibetan Administration is based. Because the middle way approach is grounded in the reality that we find in Tibet today, world leaders such as President Obama and Archbishop Tutu can openly support our efforts. A growing number of Chinese individuals, including Nobel Peace Laureate Liu Xiaobo, are increasingly aware and support the middle way approach. This is very important because ultimately, no matter how much international support we have, finding a lasting, peaceful, and acceptable solution to the situation inside Tibet will come down to the Tibetan and Chinese people. For most of history, Tibetan and Chinese people have coexisted peacefully, so we do have a precedent in that regard. China aspires to become a world leader, and it will have the moral authority to match its economic and political presence by demonstrating to the international community that it can peacefully and sustainably address the situation inside Tibet.
We are willing to not seek separation from China, because to have genuine autonomy for Tibetans is to restore basic freedom of the Tibetan people. When the Tibet issue is resolved, it will fulfill the aspirations of Tibetans in Tibet. It will fulfill the legacy of the elder generation and dreams of all those people who have left us. That will be the day when Tibetans will have their identity and dignity restored. That will be one of the best stories of the 21st century.
The middle way approach is the most sensible and pragmatic way.
I support the middle way approach.
I support the middle way approach.
This kind of approach can potentially serve as an inspirational model for many conflict areas in different parts of the world. It's grounded in a real appreciation of the complexity of today's world.
I support the middle way approach.
This is a practical way to have freedom on the ground in a united Tibet.
I support the middle way approach because it allows for the Tibetan inhabited areas within the People's Republic of China to be under a single administration and have meaningful autonomy.
I support middle-way approach.
This is an idea whose time is coming.
UMAYLAM ki siju la ari sinzin kusha Barack Obama choki tsuyo geji uti nambe gyabgyo nang yoba mase tengab gyana shungi tsunju o yobe nobe shide singda she nyonggen kusha liu sheba u tsuyo gyari shinde mina mangbo gyabgyo nang yo. Sikyon choki pimitik zuki delyo nang yikcha damin tang gyulam damin ki chagin sadun chene UMAYLAM ki siju to konskam gwen chenpo cho tang yu pimitik zuki shengcho chizam saden yoba tang siju di tabar nipa chizam tuen yoba. Chungyur siju di rendu kandashi dubgyu korso sedun yongtab che bezun che yu che song yu. UMAYLAM ki kodo legu gyage tongtab ki lishi unje ki sargwe seragab chiri kalyon digi chunya cho ki legu ngodro ki sungshe dida nang yu.
UMAYLAM ki chagya tangjewe seshe tsikasha jishu cho chi. Manzo tanda banda sikyon cho somba nangshi jizo nani chige ina, pheba ina, gyari ina UMAYLAM to tangjewe kodo beya ji ke chumbu ziwe tone manzo UMAYLAM ga kodo beya yikja ina lonye ina tsama jik khan dede jik si chojo jik chungna samne dus mikse thagya jik dus thadi shubire thagya di kei du ta zo tanda kei ngazo gyund nangshi tiksugi thagya nashi inji chi pui gei nibache ta thari mikse madawe chik ngazo yikja ka sum thadi shubati ngazo Italian, French, German ta Spanish ke nane thadi shuai ta dine gaune sibi na ta thanda ngazo pui ge thagya nane thebe na ta gaune thanda yikja siya ta lonye siya ta logu chungrim tangjewe ki dusmikse chadi shuyore di nangne da soso jabju yobe na dene soso email ki kajang da sheba anda to gyapsa yobe chi dene mat pebe na wade sikyon chuo ge ngole sikashe chi dus na yore dene yikja ngazo yikja khasu chik tanda ningdu UMAYLAM se di ningdu ngojo yikja ji niwa di UMAYLAM ki tiwa tilen jikche ani suba di da chungrim ngabchunga ku ne tabar do khandas chungyome ki seshe chi shitse di namazu tanda ba do tikzu ki UMAYLAM tang jewe ki yikja ka khashe chi chadi shuwe di chadi namba di tani ngazu dos chadi ningdu si chojo chi chadi namba re di nane nangdo da di nyema na shi rangja iba chi des chi ningdu chi si dewo chi dos chadi shuwe re and dene mats pewe na ta dene ngazu UMAYLAM se ati chungrin dos logu ngabchu ngakshi chu shegu ne tanda ba do chi chi ani mats ma pewe na ta UMAYLAM la gyabcho nangbe na kandes gyabcho nangbu yobe dos dene
Legu di gyu zamli mimanam ki pyomiso godun zoni pyori yong la mingduen chungbe rangyong tsugyu kona yinba sedo yonggyur pendo yongye yinchi songshin pyomisor maon dulamshik topche zamli miman kinshun parsum changme UMAYLAM ki legu la gyabgyor nangro she bugushu na yobre.
Drilerim di pyochiwe tunda mingse kene chebe UMAYLAM leshi di kor gyarumchi tanji unje naata enda leshi ka ni sabdo ki tsuyu nsikwishu di enlenge tsu tagye inere sangyu inere nonye kanji tonne ni gya kanji kyabe yoyeli eni tungyu naayeni eni tuyo babe nedenshi leshashe shwe
다링기 상규 대zam이 표현의 데비 네츠 시브라카 슝제 타직 대저 돈의 시기요 대전 공장 용수 데네샴라 다람살에 남슝원다타 민즈강기 예레 세제로도 시로나
인디 세기요라 참르쇼 변다시베 체드윈다 진다 쪽베 생아 레사 푸보당 레도다가 추 중추의 멜로인베 체자상 닝테 레든소 체규르 사원남니 달세 체보다 김사르 짐바 라강망 딩와 림두다 하솔 체바 람도 슈퍼 메도 계신 주바 김포와 솔라 상 대신 따르니기 라사 임베 람도 체왕식 wenkyang pangmen nambu imbe chamse ga denda longcha geba so la ngemba yin toji chenang